Hello, 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 and welcome to Floating Poly. I'm Dr. Heatsink, and this is my stream for stylized art and stylized characters. So, what we're going to be doing today then is basically trying to finish off as much of the non-skin kind of textures as possible, and then what we'll do is move into some subsurface scattering rendering. But yeah, we're coming closer to the end before what I would call a good time to show to maybe industry professionals or various discords or places for feedback and such. So hopefully we'll be able to get as much as we can out of it, so that when we get feedback, we're getting the more sort of difficult things rather than hopefully obvious things like put gradients on the character or whichever. So so this is currently what the character looks like now. As you like, the last session was a lot of fun working out how subsurface scattering worked in Marmoset. So we've got that working now on the tights. It's very subtle, but it is there. We can do some more playing about with that at some point. But what we want to do for now, even though it says a cloth stream, there is this issue of this braid that we want to finish off. And then there is this issue here where the shoes need to be finished off as well. Hopefully that's done pretty quickly, and then we can move into skin painting, and then basically sorting out finalizing maps such as SSS throughout the whole of the character. So hopefully we'll be able to reach somewhere good. A good point where feedback will be really, really valuable. So if we just take a trip down to Substance Painter, right? Okay. Same setup as usual. Preview window on the left, Substance in the background. And what we want to do, I guess we can start with the hair first. It just seems easier to me. I say cloth painting stream, it is more like finishing off cloth and hair stream. So wait for that to load up a bit. And of course, any questions or comments that you have, do leave in the chat or the comments below, in particular. So if you've got anything at all, that would be great. Still then, we can just talk about the process and whatever random stuff comes in. So let's get our folder sort of looked at. We've got fringe, back, hair. This is for the hand painting layer. We'll just put this back onto base color so that we can actually see what's going on. Got basic AO. Alright, okay, so our basic sort of AO and gradients have given us this sort of little starting point where we've got some darkness within the the parts where the braids sort of tied together. Alright, so first thing we want to do is just duplicate this, Control D. It's a big group, so it can take some time. Now that we've got that, just waiting for it to load up. Can take some time if it's quite large. Okay, there we go. So now our working environment is sort of finally set up there. Alright, so we had a large amount of information that we were painting on a whole bunch of different layers, but hopefully we can try and keep it simple for this one. Just gotta load up the whole of the set there, which is quite large, so yeah, Substance might have some difficulty with that, but hopefully it'll pick up. Usually. There we go. Alright, okay, we were just narrowly avoiding the hashtag trainwreck stream. Anyway, remove the mask there, and all of this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so that's all its own. We're just going to call it, say, braids, okay, and add in the only issue that I've got there is just this is like slightly weird masks, but it might be just the case that we'll have to correct them, but that's fine. So add our black mask on, and color selection. Pick the braid color. There we go. Checking out the words than any other, but yeah, it just looks fine. Alright, and I'm just gonna take away a bunch of these just to see what's going on. Okay, because all of these are hand painted layers, but because they're using a regular you know, the paint layer rather than the fill layer, what it means is that those details are specific to those areas there rather than if we were using a fill layer. I think it might be best to use a fill layer for this one because the area is just so small and maybe generically applicable enough to warrant not needing like 6 million different colors or whatever, whereas the other parts over here and over here kind of did need that a little bit. However, things like height are still going to need to be defined properly. For instance, the height between these gaps may need to be defined or sort of on its own. So let's just have a go and see what we get. So we're going to go and take a color that's sort of like this, but or maybe a little closer to the blue end of that. Yeah, all right, and okay, yeah, all right, and we're just going to quickly have a look at what roughness the hair has. In this case, it is a quick paint layer just so that I can sample it. Roughly about here, right? That's a roughness of 0.52. We want to aim for something kind of like that. So if we go here, got a roughness of 0.3. We want 0.52-ish. So that'll do. Yeah, there we are. Because I just want to see the base layer for it right now. So I'm setting up the base as to the darker areas that I'm going to color, and then we'll do the same for lighter areas and sort of transition them both over each other. All right, cool. So what else have we got? We need don't need cavity yet, don't need height yet, don't need any of those other ones yet. This is fine. All right then. So go back into our there. Just look for that cavity sort of kind of map that we have over here. This one we can go ahead and just throw on cavity, and we'll turn that to something like 0.3, 0.25, something like that. So what we're saying is that it's going to export a cavity map. What that really does is just like it multiplies the specular value of the of that area that is masked off, and basically says that there's going to be no light there. All right, so we are intentionally basically blocking out light there, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a black mask on this. And again, really soft brush for now. Got white color there, yep, that's fine. I'm definitely on the correct brush. Just turn it up a bit so I can actually see. Yes, it is working. Cool. Alright, now you can find that, like, because some of this stuff is done through a generator, it tends to, like, if it's too aggressive or it's too aggressive for that particular area, you can find that it becomes very pixely, or if there was just no resolution there in the first place, it could also become very pixely. So what we want to do first of all is that we would just want to, well, what I'm doing rather is that I just want to lay down some base gradients between these parts, just between the sections of the braid. If we're finding that it's getting a little bit hectic, we can just swap over to our 2D UV view, even 2D UV view, and just paint in between there. And if I look at base color, is what I should look at. Right, because I want to go dark, light, dark, dark, light, dark, dark, light, dark, right? So in betweens, and we're not looking right now to be super textury right now. We just want some base gradients that we can play with and try not to obscure ourselves with the rest of the hair at the moment. Yeah, because the rest of the layers can come on top afterwards, but for now, if we could just work out where this center is, I think it's here, yeah. So we'll have this back area over here where you see this sort of segmentation like that is just relating to the outer edges on this UV. So what I want to do is I want to paint the these parts in very quickly, just so that the top part of each sort of braid segment is pretty much already colored, right, with the start of our sort of gradient there. Now, unfortunately, it may be that what we're getting here is that there was already a darker color to begin with, so our color that we have selected here is not actually dark enough. So we're just going to increase the strength of that and then play with the mask a little bit more this way. Now, I haven't done it as a paint mask, probably should have, but it seems okay for now. It's only a base like gradient. It's not super important for it to be isolated on its own just now, because we're going to cover it with more layers. Again, right, super low. Oh, I just want to change my paintbrush while I'm here, just to make sure that the spacing is correct. So the size space right now is on object. I want it on a viewport, so that when I'm painting in the viewport, right, and my brush size stays consistent, because if I'm painting in 2D, I expect it to behave in that way. But if I'm painting on the 3D view, I might very well expect my brush size to adapt to that, so that it, doesn't, basically the size is consistent. Of course, there are obviously reasons to do it, in the other way for the UV view as well. Like, if you want it to scale based on the actual object size, I guess, then that would be ideal, if that was what you were after. I'm just going to turn the flow down super low and then just basically swipe at it. Swipe over it once, twice. So I'm going to get a value that is reasonably close to begin with, and then do more work on it after, right? Yeah. And we see that it does create quite a bit of difference when you've got these sort of gradients in there. You can't just rely entirely on the renderer to pick up everything, unless it's like you're doing something realistic, where then it really would, because of the way that it behaves. Or that you're using a completely different kind of shader, so if you need it to behave in a particular way, right? That's true of like if you were using like a purely emissive thing, like if you were using a shader that was more for sort of League of Legends, then yeah, you would definitely be painting this way. You know, and you probably wouldn't even be using a shader so much as you would be using an unlit view, if that would be the way to describe it. Okay, so it may also be that we don't want this this line to be so harsh now. We want it to be a little bit more like these lines. Okay, they're still kind of a bit dark, but they're not quite as harsh as these. So if we just look for them, which is just over on this layer, it's the only one that's visible above it. There might be more. It may also be part of AO. And it looks like it might very well be. Take that as well, yeah. And if I put the AO back on, yeah, you see that's definitely part of the ambient occlusion layer. And if check this, is this the braid? Yep. So we're just going to quickly adjust this. We don't need it to be so harsh anymore. This is mask builder. That uses position, curvature, ambient, and at the moment it's very, very harsh. Probably do by turning some stuff down, but we've got to find the level, the contrast, or something that makes it a little bit less aggressive, right? And then it can become more sort of an actual AO map. Playing a little bit with the contrast and the levels here. Something a little bit like that. And if I go to the other line layer, not that one. Oh, it wasn't on anyway. Alright, that's fine. In which case, what we can do here is just get that filter. We'll just put a blur on it. And this way our lines aren't going to be anywhere near as harsh, but the only problem is that you may get this sort of weird sort of almost like a warp effect where the edges of the mask don't, like they bleed, so you get like this sort of white halo-y effect, which you don't really want. You gotta be slightly careful. We're only like after a very tiny amount of blur anyway. It's not like it needs to be super fine. Like it's just a little blur. It's not meant to be very big. That I think is good enough. So go back to our paint layer over here, and then if we look at the line layer that we had before, somewhere here, yeah, there you are. And see, yeah, this layer is doing a lot of the work in terms of defining the directionality of the hair, and this is going through 6 million different effects. So in this case, concavity, inverts that, levels it to then become stronger, blurs it to make it a little bit more smooth, I guess, and then levels it again so that after it's been smoothed, it's then tightened again. And we've got another fill which has the convexity on, and that's applied a small amount. And so what you get is a very sort of well, it allows the directionality to be implied anyway. All it really is just a mask, but right now it's still a little bit harsh. So what I might do as well is just add on another filter, which in this case is of course again it's a blur, and just blur it out a little bit, not a lot, Okay. You can always paint on top of it anyway, just a little bit, just so that the the colors are just sort of moved around and made less less harsh. Alright, so there we go. We're just gonna call that like line or something right now. You can always turn the opacity down as well, although obviously it's going to change the actual color of the texture as well. Bear that in mind. About 90%. Okay. Alright, so then it's just back to gradienting, and what I want to do as well, I think would be a good idea. Not like that, but let me just get this back on 1. I want to just paint in, you know, some gradients that sort of bleed from these lines. Take that away as well. Yeah, I can see there. So this will work. So these sort of in-betweens, I want to have some level of you know, opacity, sorry, like transition, just a little bit. And it really is just a case of you know, basically just drawing over the line and implying, you know, just following the directionality of it. So the more that they sort of you know, suggest a direction, the better it's going to be. All right. So how's that doing now? So it's a little bit on the thick side. So we just bring that back a little bit. Oops, wrong one. No, but I don't want it to be too harsh. I just need it to be, you know, enough to be visible. We can always, you know, take this and multiply the opacity down, you know, by even 50% or even down to 10% if we really wanted to. From a base color standpoint, this seems okay. Right? Maybe a little harsh still, but it's getting closer to what I think I want. Sadly, if you get too close to the model, and if you you might end up with a very like perplexing view sometimes. So it can be difficult to navigate, but easy enough sometimes. I want to be slightly careful of like a seam, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem since they're going to be relatively close in color, and I'm still aware that it might be an issue. On so low that you couldn't tell that it was on. All right. Okay. This is definitely one of those times where I really wish I had shall we like exploded the model a little bit, but we can just paint with the called 3D view for now. That's fine. Okay. Alright, so back to this part. This part is mostly hidden, I think. I think it's just, yeah, it's mostly over at the top there, which is probably not going to be as animated. In fact, it probably won't even be animated at all in comparison to, say, if you were around here and then here, here, right? So it makes some sense that it might be much more darker ambient in an ambient way. Speaking of which, do I assign an ambient color? Ah, I did not, because this thing doesn't actually have an ambient map, so okay, that's fine. Like, it doesn't have a ambient channel. May need to give it one. Okay. Alright, so that should make quite a bit of difference there. And I think that we would want this one to be more AO than we would want it to be so-called cavity, because it doesn't, it's got a lot of soft, like, you know, soft indication really. It's just meant to throw like gradients and such onto the model. It's not really meant to define super detailed you know, parts. Okay. I think that's a fair amount of difference in that. I think we can adjust it as well, just a little bit lighter, about 80%. Okay, these bits definitely needed some level of paint over though. Just throw on just a little bit more gradienting on. It's really nice and soft. Fair enough now. I guess we can move on to the bottom side. There. Here we have doing some occlusion for the part where the bow is considered, which would be on M3 cloth _1. So I just want to make sure there is some ambient occlusion over there, because of course you're not going to get the need for a bow like this. Now these are in UV space at the moment. Probably want it to switch back to camera, so that way they'll actually, you know, they'll have their issues seen, or the gradient hopefully will be fixed. All right. Okay. Pretty soft. To the other side. A little bit of a, you know, touch there. Gradient. Alright, so that's that. Now we can just have a look at the other layers that we have. So for layer 7, what is this doing? This changes the roughness down to a very low value. Whilst we would want some level of highlighting, probably not that much, so about maybe 0.4 or something. Roughness correct. Over here, I changed it to 0.6 based on manual painting, which I imagine will not be applying here anytime soon. Oh no, it did. It did. Alright then. But do we want it to be that way? Do we want it to appear like this? Probably. Yes. And to be honest, most of that is actually pretty reasonable. Even. So. Oops. I just want to put a color on that's like super obvious so that I can tell where it's going. And to be fair, it's only meant to sort of generically confirm the new roughness along, and I think it's just meant to do this on a simple gradient that says closer to the top there means it's going to be rougher, and closer to the bottom means it's going to be less rough, right? So more like highlights are going to show up, right? We're also on the wrong layer. It can be a bit crazy. Alright. And do I need any more here? Yes, I do. I need some more. Definitely need some more around here. Always does that. You go over and you accidentally blind yourself in the view with another object. Oh dear. Okay, so that should reveal a good amount. I'll just get some. Alright then. Now that we've done that, have a look without this crazy colour on, and just off, see what happens. On. Not a lot happens actually, to be honest. Yeah, just look at that. Yeah. Not really a lot going on there. Then we've got this line. Now I've done all that, is a little bit aggressive, so a little bit like too hard, but it could easily be a case where we don't even need the base color for it anymore, and you don't really. Just checking the line. Right, I see. Yeah, okay. So this one probably doesn't really apply so much for cavity. Yeah, definitely not. So take cavity off because it's just too broad. It covers a lot of areas. Probably just want it to be very, very low in its opacity. Maybe something like that. Okay. This is quite high, but the amount that this mask covers may be having a indirect effect on how much roughness needs to actually be there. Like right now, sample that, right, and that's after I've turned it down a lot. Here's the roughness value. There you are, 0.5. Right. The roughness value over on our darker spots here is about 0.5. Okay, so that's a bit more ballpark, I guess. It seems to make more sense anyway. At least until the actual cavity is painted. So this isn't really a line so much it is an extra sort of shading map, I guess. So yeah, that, yeah. Okay. Base colors there, but it's at 75. Then we've got this height here, but judging by the you know, the mask there, I can see that it's obviously, you know, the old. Just click or remove the mask and put a new one back on. Black mask. Paint on as well, why not? So if this is going to be height, then I'm expecting that it's going to cut into the normal map. It's going to have a darker color. Probably needs to be even darker than this. Really high in roughness and a certain cavity amount, in this case about 40% from white. A darker sort of grey. Alright. Oh, and of course it's going to actually interfere with light so that it doesn't render that. Okay. Move that over there. Really small brush, turn it up, the opacity up a bit so I can see that it's definitely working, and it is. So with this then, I just want to paint in like these little in-betweens, but I want to do it with not too much. You don't need it to be super effective, it just needs to be enough. Right. So when I'm looking at this in base view, yeah, just wanna, you know, paint in the cavity. That's all I'm really interested in. I don't need to like outline or cover the latest you know, image of whoever's on. Just enough, to suggest it and get the cavity value in there. Doesn't need to be exact. If it's getting too much or if it's too difficult because stuff is in the way, just do it here in Photoshop. Well, I'm sorry, not Photoshop, but more like this 2D view. Like, it does like remind me of like switching to Photoshop though, to, you know, to do texturing. Obviously, it's not the exact same thing though. It might be that this value is too high and that we need to tone it down even more, which is understandable. I'm kind of cold all of a sudden, not really sure why. You check that mask. Alright, okay, cool. lines over here on this good or not? Still too strong. Right. Now I've just turned them down a little bit. It's a bit easier now to make my judgments as to whether or not I need to keep on doing some rendering or not. Good to detail some of these like cavity lines as well. Okay. As I said, I don't want it to be too harsh. We can always tone this down after. As long as it's all consistent, tone it all down. If it's not consistent from the start though, it'll be very much a case of get up and go. Yeah. Getting closer. Getting that bit close. Little streaks of like hair here that can be removed. Oh, no, not removed. Enforced a little. Clean that up a little, mess it up a little. Okay, there we go. That's sort of like cavity mask, if we will. Into a little bit more areas that would seem to have been missed. You can see them on the 3D view in that. Alright. What have we got here? So darker colour, probably doesn't need to be that dark. 25%, yeah, that's probably good. Height working, roughness at that, basically next to 1, and cavity at 0. Maybe worth changing it to 0.32 or something. Yeah. Quick little bit more here. Actually, it is really, really cold. That is surprising. So, move the heater on. Not that it's going to get anywhere. I highly doubt that it is going to heat the room anytime soon, but it's worth a go, right? I thought it would make me a little bit more active as well. In terms of speaking, as you can probably tell, it's very, very quiet right now, mostly because it's just doing the same. So just slowly adding to it. It's not super difficult, you know. Just a relaxed little set. So the only real thing I've got to add besides process would be basically my opinion, I guess. Some parts here probably don't need to be the material view. You can see probably not necessary, this line. Because a lot of it probably isn't super necessary, is it? Yeah, most of this probably isn't even needed. Line here isn't quite required, actually. Yeah. Most of the end part there kind of solves itself. It doesn't really need extra line guidance or whatever. All right. Have a look at what we have. We've got this, where on occasion there is some little bits of detailing, but probably could go further. Oops. Highlight to the mask. Mask here, so what we got is that it's mostly going along the center part, which is on the outer a little bit, but not very much. And it's not really like it's super necessary or anything anyway. But the thing that I'm most interested in right now is to take some of these, basically paint like a little bit on it, so a little bit of shading or something on it. Little things. And because the map itself, like the size per like braid segment is really small, it's not like it really needs to be super accurate or detailed or anything like that. Just enough information. Yeah, so I guess something kind of like that, although it can be a bit finicky. No further bit of like editing just to make it look only a bit nicer, I guess. That substance should be saving. Yep. Okay. A little far in that. Apologise about that. Alright. The base color, what does it look like? Like little bits, right? Not a lot, just I don't know. Just wanna like get into these little sort of make sure that they emphasize that the hair goes into comes out from here. I'm meant to go in. Quite a lot of times there's sort of a bulge. You know, much like how you know you compress something, the part that isn't compressed then starts bulging out more, sort of. Go over here, just paint a little bit. Two pixels. Back here as well to do, so yeah, it's a bit of work. Following the curve. Things really have to follow the curve. And then when you get an example that isn't, it's, for instance, it's not actually following the curve. Oh, wrong side. Okay. Yeah, it's super low around there, so it's not something to worry about. In fact, I suppose if it's that low, it might as well just go away. Okay, alright, let's see what that looks like now. So what we've got here is a texture set that has some reaction to light. Wonder how that's gonna do. Probably not. Right, let's go. After it's saved. Oh, I don't need every single one of these, just the hair is good. Okay. Okay, so the good thing is that the colour is now matching. The only problem, I guess, is that the the cavity is too aggressive, right? Maybe it doesn't really need to be there. Take it off, for instance. Or again, will it become neater? Again, it is neater, but now it's very plain. So you probably still need it, but it's just a bit, you know, just a bit aggressive right now. So turn it down. No. Like 50%. That's what. Okay, there we go. It's still a little bit on the messy side, and there's still some like non-cavity going on. If we just throw up cavity, yeah. There's also no like real indicator to begin with. I think it defaults to like 1 anyway, but we're just gonna throw on a base number. Because it then also lets us see the actual cavity value as well. Cavity is at like 0.3. We're just going to turn it to something like 0.15 or something. I mean, we go back to our any of these paint layers and then just check this number. 0.5 is that one? Okay. Although it could just be something. This is about roughness, sorry. That's a cavity amount. 0.4. Okay. Not been tested yet. Could just be that the height as well is way too far. I think that's probably one reason. About 0.05 height, give it its save. Put the texture out. I think that's overdone it somewhat. Definitely had a negative effect. .09 or something. .15. Again. There we are. That's a little bit more of a happy medium. Flow that around a little. Out. For some texture, it's just a little bit. Presumably is down to because the height map changes these aspects, so it just sort of pulls some value from somewhere. Roughness is on 0.99 though. It may just be that it needs more darkness, I don't know. Plus also the opacity is not particularly high there as well. Okay. may just simply need more darkness or more roughness there, or something. Something that basically says that it doesn't do anything there. In fairness, there's also no AO going on, so it could also be that. That's entirely possible. Try turning. No, it's already on black. What I'm going to do as well is quickly. Oh, what's this? What I'm going to do is quickly gradiently back sort of these things here. They're being a little bit neglected right now. And I've got to do this in the 2D view because obviously it's very difficult to see the object there. Still need to know where exactly it is. Got a folder for that. Probably don't. Alright, it's apparently part of back with. I feel like I've messed with something that I shouldn't have. Oh, there we are. Right, cool. It already kind of has the gradient on, it's just, you know, more to it really. You'll want to be able to paint some form of line there. A little bit, but not going on there. Wondering if did the braids need that shading thing on? Probably not. Okay. I think the rough correct. Yeah. First hit paint. Maybe it just needs to be more rough. Ah. This off. hopefully, hey, let's fix that a lot. It's a lot better now. I mean, I still want some level of specular in there, but at least it's not quite like doing as much like weird in between light, which is a lot better. So that's something. Play around with that figure. This fill layer is a general sort of fill layer. Alright, okay. And if we could, so if we set this to something like, I don't know, 0.3 or 0.4-ish, then we'll look at where is it? This height one. Look at this, and yeah. So on these, not quite 100% like laid out. Might have to do some you know, neatening up here. Might even be that you don't even have to do any of that, and program organizes it for you or something. But for now, we just fine it a little bit more. Be a little bit hard get these to play that nice, even though the roughness is on like 0.99 or 0.96. Be height down a little bit, not that much. And hopefully be quiet. I have to check though. Right. It is still like there, but it's not quite as bad as it was before. A bit more forgivable. When I look at it much further away, it's not so bad. As for here, I can hide the and should be grouped really. Pull this down. Having to make a group for the fringe so that I could just, you know, like, sorry, hide it whenever. Hey, look at that! It's like an Nendoroid or something. Not a lot of this thing is going to be that visible. In fact, it more just serves background. But it's still a part of me that really does want to like put some kind of variance down for it. Even if it's just a bit of a gradient or something, perhaps. So, yeah. Down to back hair, since that's where it lives. I mean, there is some gradient to it. It's not a lot, but and some roughness. But it's still a little bit on the sort of small side. So this is filling it with very. What's there? I'm not sure if that's really what it meant. No, leave it for now. Layer not necessary. Here. Just gonna add a fill. Just call it, I don't know, gradient, like super quick. Color, roughness, maybe. I think that's. Back to base color. Okay. Sample this. Maybe a little darker color. Gone too far. Alright. And roughness about 2.7, I guess. So it's a little bit rougher as we go down. And black. Paint. And take a sort of a look over here. Alignment is currently on camera right now. Changing this a little darker. Now, something like that. Kill that and go back in again. Right. Now we got that. And a little bit of a gradient. So there's something that the the player can see, right? Or maybe not like that. A little closer to something like that. It's a something like that. Be like consistent with the rest of the hairpiece. That gives us this, which is a little bit more, how we say, so, and we can get this height math. Try and paint on another. Didn't seem like it. Painting on a disable. Oh, it was hidden. Derp. What? not quite behaving the way I want it to. Oh, the reason why is because it was not on full. That's why. Let's see. There's an area around here where the UVs are a little bit distorted or something, which is, you know, unfortunate. Gradient is the wrong sort of color shade. Yeah. Oh, shit. This one. This gradient's a little bit of the wrong shit, eh? What's affecting this one? What? Maybe something like that. Make it a bit different. What? Really tell much on there, to be honest. Probably needs some at the front. There's not a lot going on in terms of the front. White. Go ahead and paint some lines over on the front side if I can. I just want to check what that is. Oh yeah, wrong side. Where is it? Oh, it should be somewhere there. Where'd it go? There it was. It was just really hard to see. Also means it's going to be really hard to line up. Definitely one of those where you really want it to have like an exploded version. So yeah, next time to do this, you probably want another version of the model that is exploded, but unfortunately I don't have that quite just yet. Little line there, but no, it's not. It's just that's just not well aimed. First line was okay. The second line is just no. It's been slow work, hasn't it? There's a little bit there. Most of this gets hidden away though by the fringe and the bangs and stuff. It's not like super hoarding or anything. But it would be nice to make it like really consistent all around. But it's probably the only thing is that the braids seem a little bright. Even though they were adjusted to be darker, little darker, they still seem a little bit too light right now, which isn't exactly a difficult correction or anything. That currently is at an 86. It's about 75, and I need like the like a base value or something. No, not that. Okay, this is the base multiplier already apparently, but it's masked. So. Means this takes from base somewhere else. Okay, we can just give it a kind of base, right? Give it that for a second. Not. Okay. Maybe if we just put it on gray color, but then multiply. Just adjust this. Not really. In that case then, the easiest way is to go over and find this thing, copy it, paste it just below. The only problem is that it's still a bit there's a problem with. Instantiate layer. Okay. Looks like it has a gradient going down. Oops, wrong one. Ah, yeah. Yeah, I see. Alright, okay. So just go ahead. Go over and 0.6 or something. So multiply. Change this value according to how much I want to buff or debuff it. Yeah. That seems like a bit. So now if I look at it, right, that seems to brighten and darken it a little bit. I need it to be a little bit darker, not massively, just enough. All right. I wanted it to be on cloth and it ended up being on about 90% hair. Okay. We might rename it. Right. Now if we look, didn't change much. Didn't really notice anything. Nothing like I don't know, 50. Again. It again. What was the point? Was it actually just maybe base mesh wasn't in? Right, go ahead and feel like it changed very much. Let me try like a really extreme value, so like this and like super changing. It's a really weird purple, right? Then I would expect it to change, right? Yes, it does, but it's very. It's almost like too subtle. Like obviously this isn't exactly very subtle, but with Marmoset though, that was like really quite cool for it. You know, for Marmoset. Yeah. Okay. Let's export that. Oh, hello, Doggy Sky. Any questions you have, please feel free to ask, actually. trying really hard to be excited, but I think I've been up at 4 a.m. Thanks to a certain VTuber who has a very, very interesting schedule. They were playing Metal Gear Solid, and it was quite. I really wanted to be able to see it. Sakuya's UI is cute. Yes, she is. In particular, this iteration is from Touhou Genso Wanderer, so it's basically a roguelike, but Touhou themed. These braids are. I did need these braids to be slightly brighter. It was more face framing, but it's not quite as. It still feels like it's too bright. We can faff around with that for maybe 5 more minutes, hopefully. So, I just want these braids to be a little bit darker, but it seems like it's just a little. How do I put it? Difficult to get the color to go down in Marmoset. Am I trying to do an animation or just art? In this case, it's just art, but I'm actually quite up for animating it because we've got quite a bit of time with this project. I think I've got about another month or so before the Rookies ends, and what I'd like is for the character to definitely at least be posed so that they look cool. But any kind of animation we can get in there, if I can get that in there, that would be really, really cool. I wouldn't expect too much, maybe sort of like just small idle animations or something, if I get that in. Thank you for your messages, by the way. It really helps with the streaming process, actually. Okay. Alright, I think that's kind of the what I'm gonna get. So that seems fine. So we'll just switch to Marmoset for a little while. Like, just switch over to this. So. Well, we're going to rename the stream from cloth to hair for this one. Do I play Touhou 6 Embodiment of Scarlet Devil? Yes, I have played it. I've played it a lot. It would have been a while ago, a long while ago. But yeah, I played that quite a lot back in the day. Obviously, it's a bit... I don't really play that as often now. And I do try and keep up with Touhou quite a bit. But the last one I played proper was LOLK, Legacy of Lunatic Kingdom, and it's really, really hard. So yeah, I do keep up with it. It's just hard to find the time to play it properly, unfortunately. But maybe we'll, like, if I'm feeling masochistic enough. One of the Sunday gaming streams, we might do a Touhou game, which would be, I'm not very good at them, unfortunately. So anyways, this is what the model looks like right now. We wanted to try and do the shoes on stream today as well, but we've just been so caught up on, just painting the braids. Well, there are still, if you zoom in super far, you're gonna get this in between sort of brightness issue, but if you zoom out, it's not so bad. There's still I think some cleanup that could happen on I think some of the height map stuff that's going on, but I think it's okay for now. It's just gonna be a process where I'm gonna have to run through the whole thing and clean it up. Like the game and the character, but never played Touhou. Well, play it then. That's what I'm telling you to do. Steam has a good few of them. Maybe not Toho 6, but you can one way or another find Toho and have a good time. It depends like which one you want, and like if you already know the characters. Oh, you don't have a PC. Do you have a Switch? Do you have a PS4? Because there's quite a few Toho games that have made it on those two platforms I know. If you haven't, like, if you have a Switch, I think that Toho Lunar Nights is coming out for that. If you have a PS4, you should be playing Toho Lunar Nights. Definitely, it's one of the reasons why I'm making this character in particular. So that's definitely a game recommendation. You have an Xbox One. Oof. Toho games don't really appear on Xbox One, unfortunately. The kind, like, it's if you've got any, like, Toho games don't really need like powerful PCs, so like if you can like build a really kind of not particularly amazing rig, it will still be able to play a good amount of Toho games, like whether they're fan games or not. They have very, very low requirements, so like even buying like a terrible laptop will still be able to play like Toho 6 or anything. Just it depends where you are and what kind of like games are you going to intend to play. So if you know the lore of Toho, more like the story and like you read it, or all the memes and whatever, then you probably are better off playing the the fan games. But if you actually like the Dojin, like the really, really hardcore bullet hell shooters, then yeah, like get yourself a simple really low cost laptop or PC, or just build something or from like crap, and build yourself a PC that can play Toho games. So that's my recommendation anyway, with that kind of thing. Alright, so this stream's been really, really slow. It's been really, really slow trying to get a lot of this to work, but we're so close to the end of the texturing process. What I want to do is try and finish this, like this, the boots here, but there's not like a super amount to do. I don't know what that visual bug is over here. When I ported it to Marmoset Viewer, it didn't have any kind of issue, but I can see that clearly there's a problem there, so I'll have to look at that and analyze why. But I don't think I need to like add any like texture or anything to it. It just needs its own painting, so much like the rest of this, just a bit of gradienting and like the correct roughness so that it has the correct lighting on it. And then I want to go do all the skin, and just like it's already reasonably painted at the moment, but I want to just give it a real pass in terms of the roughness values. Right now there's a slightly cray roughness value assigned to these eyelids, for instance. They should probably be taken down a little bit. So that's fine. But we're so close to the end of the texturing process, and then what I'll do is that I'll basically be posting this to try and get some feedback on the mesh and see what people think in terms of how is it, what can we do to make it better, and then we can stream the improvement process. So yes, so if you have been watching, thank you so much for watching this stream. Particularly thank you so much for typing in the chat. Any questions are of course much appreciated. And of course, like if you have any further questions, you can leave them in the comments below. I will answer them. So tomorrow is Sunday, and Sunday is the game stream. So I do a weekly game stream instead of an art stream every Sunday. The stream in particular, it's not a game that I necessarily would play, but it is a game that someone, like a friend of mine, had made. So we're going to give that a try. we're gonna go over it because it's not a game that I would necessarily like think to play, right? And it's a visual novel, but it's not one that I necessarily would jump to. We're gonna then judge it based on, you know, being objective, like, you know, if like the kind of thing is like if this was for someone you knew, right, would it be suitable, you know, that kind of thing. Like I say, like the only visual novels I've played are or read through are Higurashi and Yumineko, and I absolutely love those, but this isn't going to be quite like that, so you know, it's just a little, it's very different for me to be able to sift through that, but we'll give it a go, and it might surprise us after all. So thank you so much for joining me today, and hopefully you'll be able to see me next time. Thank you so much. Bye bye.